Hello, fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is El, and I return today to speak on some Law of One concepts, share with you my perceptions, and some quotes from the Law of One to link it all together. So, today I have a decent one for you, and it's actually quite important. It was brought up to me based on a conversation I had recently with my friend, and I have a few friends that seem to be like this, and what I would describe it as is I don't want to call it a spiritual ego, but it's a funny thing that people do. Okay, so if you're listening to this, I can make a few assumptions, and I will be wrong often. But I would just think that possibly, if you are geared toward the Law of One philosophy, you may be one type of person who is good at giving. You may be a type of person who giving comes naturally, and freely giving and being a kind person comes naturally. So you feel like, hey, life is tough out there for most people. I want to just sort of make life as easy as I can for them and try to serve them as best as I can. Now, the downfall of this type of person is that they often suck at receiving love. So you may be very good at giving love. However, there's sort of two sides of the same coin, which is the receiving. So giving and receiving. Now, you may think, oh, well, who am I to receive love? I mean, maybe I don't need it, right? But you do need it, my friend. You do need it. And, our incarnations here are a lot to do with other selves, with other people, right? It's not just about us. It's about the intermingling and friction between you and other people, and, the givings and receivings between you that really are sort of what your lessons of love here are about. So this podcast in general is going to be about learning how to receive. And you may be a lovely, wonderful spiritual giver, and often, this may lead to sickness and in the physical body. Why? So that you can come to a place where other people take care of you, where you become the helpless victim seemingly, and allow others to give love to you that you so, need as well. You're not any different from other people. We all need to give and receive love, and you need to receive love too. And, you have a high thought of yourself that like, oh, it's okay, I can just suffer alone, and you have shame that you're a burden on other people. But my friend, we are in this service to others thing because we are not perfect. We know that we will stumble and fall, and in the service to others, right, it's about a group effort. It's about we are one. It's about when there's pain in one area, there's other areas to lift you up, and to me that's the idea. You want to be a loving, good service of a person and be that leg to stand on for other people, but then you have to be willing to allow others to do the same for you, because it's, like I say, two sides of the same coin. There is really no difference between the giving and receiving. And I know, I'm going to actually contradict myself later and say that it's mostly about giving, but it's a huge addendum for those who are more geared towards giving and, not necessarily, they're sort of shameful about receiving love and health and acceptance from others. So this is what this podcast is going to be about. So we are going to start with just little short quotes, and then I'm going to sort of drop the main one on you third. So the first one is just about, well, what is the green ray heart chakra? So we're in the third density. First of all, we have 7 chakras, okay? We're in the third density, moving into the fourth, which generally means, in my opinion, that we have the bottom 3 chakras generally open and are, learning our lessons concerned with the bottom 3 chakras. And then as we're moving from the third density to the fourth density, we are going to be somewhat activating the third to the fourth chakra, the fourth chakra being the heart chakra. So what is the heart chakra? What are the lessons of the heart chakra about? Well, they are about basically universal love, okay? And so they describe here in session 31.5, Ross states, the gift, shall we say, being given freely, no payment being requested either of the body, of the mind, or of the spirit, the green ray is one of complete universality of love. This is a giving without expectation of return. End of quote. And so you see, this is about giving without the expectation of return. Freely give, freely receive, and we're going to talk about freely receive in a bit here. However, I would like to point out to you that Ra also mentions, something about this freely giving in the very first quote in the entire Law of One series, or whatever you want to call it. So in session 1.0, it's very simple. They ask, was service freely given? And so let me read you just part of that quote. It says, "Let us for a moment consider thought. What is it, my friends, to take thought? Took you then thought today? What thoughts did you think today? What thoughts were part of the original thought today? In how many of your thoughts did the creation abide? Was love contained? And was service freely given? You are not a part of the material universe. You are part of a thought. You are dancing in a ballroom in which there is no material. You are dancing thoughts." End of quote. So, think of this in this context, right? You are not part of a material universe. And a lot of time we think about givings is, we're going to freely give some sort of material item, money or just some sort of material, like a gift. However, there's a lot of other gifts that you can give which are not of material, which would be, of thoughts. Like maybe you would consider this podcast a seeming gift of thought, right, to other selves. And so that's what we're doing here. We are basically playing with our thoughts. And so if you would like to sort of hoard all your gifts to yourself, which would include, hoarding your thoughts and the aspects of your being to yourself, I would consider that a little bit selfish. Sometimes people think that, well, who wants to know about my life and why should I share and blah, 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 blah. But my friend, like that is part of your universe. And so if you're able to sort of just freely share the essence of your being with others without sort of expectation of how they're going to take it, I think that is a good thing to take note of, because you're not taking part then necessarily in the material universe. You are understanding that thoughts are kind of things, and in giving these thoughts, you are being of great service. So let's move into the meaty part here of what I would like to talk about. So I mentioned this to my friend on the weekend because like a lot of people that I tend to talk to tend to be lovers and givers, and they sort of have a high attitude about themselves that, like, if things go bad for me, it's all right, I can take care of myself, blah 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 blah. I mean, it's sort of a thing that men tend to do, but honestly, I mean, everybody does it. It's not prone to one or the other. It's just more that there's this sense of self that says, I'm not going to put my burdens on other people. Like, they don't want to have to deal with me and my pathetic being and my sadness and my sickness, and I'm just gonna sort of suffer alone in this darkness and get through it. Okay, so this is sort of the attitude that I get from people. So one of my friends was seemingly struck with sickness, with that quick and cruel catalyst, as they may state here. And so what I wanted to explain to him was that, look, my friend, I want you to know that things like this happen to you in the physical often. Like, I'm not going to say that I know for sure, right? But I wanted to explain to him that often, your physical body may come into a unhealthy situation, which will be multifaceted as to why. But part of the reason why is it will give you a predisposition to deal with other selves. In other words, you will be put in a position where you don't really have anything to give other than to, receive. And so you are put in a position where, oh, wow, you're such a lovely giver, great, but here we shall strike you with sickness, and, you are going to be sort of forced into a situation in which you will have to allow others to take care of you. To be that pathetic little being that that you try to help out other times, right? Now you get to be that part of the equation, and as it is with oneness, it's that we are the giver and we are the receiver. We are all aspects of the equation at all times. And so, what side of the equation do you find yourself on today? Are you on the side of needing to be the receiver, or do you think you are full of love and gratitude and feeling pretty centered in your being, and you may be in the giving attitude? And so there's not really any right way or wrong way to do it. These are both saying the same thing. It's just honestly to practice love. But people think that practicing love means to only give love. And in you receiving love from other people, you honestly are even giving them a gift in a way, okay? This is what really annoys me about people, is when I or anyone, it doesn't matter, but you try to do something for somebody, okay? And you would like to freely give. So you freely give your service or your time or money or effort or whatever the heck it is, okay? And you don't expect anything to come back from the other person. However, that person wants to reciprocate. And so it's not you to put up a stop sign in front of them and say, I can serve you, but you are not allowed to return the service. Right? Like, why does that make sense? It doesn't. You are saying, I can share love, but I wouldn't like to receive love. No, 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 no. So when you learn to freely give, freely receive, which is a quote that has been in my mind, is freely give, freely receive for many years now. And it's just very important to me because I think that it's just easy for us to forget that we do need to be on the good receiving side. So, it allows others to give you offers of opportunities for reciprocity and gratitude and giving the other self purpose and meaning. So when you serve somebody, right, they may feel that they might not be as spiritually adept as you and thinking that they would like that they want to freely receive this item. So they think in their head, hey, I would like to freely reciprocate to you. And so what I would do generally is, first, I would just reiterate to them that my service was given freely. I don't expect anything in return. However, if they would feel the need or they really do desire to reciprocate in any way, I am free to receive it. I don't want to put up a wall. I don't want to be that, that overly nice person. When somebody does something nice for somebody and then the other person wants to give them some money, it's like, hey, this money doesn't really mean much to me, but I just want to give it to you for the sake of just showing you a sense of my gratitude. And then the receiving person, oh, no, I couldn't possibly take that money. No. And there is this dynamic between, you don't know what the other person is thinking. Like, honestly, some people give only to receive. I have dealt with that myself. Oh, I better believe it. I'll give you a quick example of it, okay? I used to have a roommate before. He was a generally nice guy, and he would, he liked to cook and things like this. So what he would do is he would say, hey, I made this wonderful dinner, and, I wanted to share it. So here, come get a plate. Come eat, right? And so I would come and I would get a plate and I'd get some food and I'd take it and eat it. Great, right? And how would I probably want to reciprocate? By, maybe cleaning up after or just doing anything to help the situation and just show that, I appreciated his offer. But before I get the opportunity to do that, he would often come to me and say, okay, so I cooked dinner and you now have to clean up everything. So why? I don't like when people do that. The reason why is he's now somewhat robbed me of the opportunity to freely give to him, to reciprocate that freely, as opposed to him sort of demanding it from me. And he's giving it to me in expectation that later, like a little bank book that he wrote down a debt on, he now can go to his book and say, oh, well, I did this for you this day and this for you this day and this, so you need to do this for me. And to what degree he may be right? He's not freely giving. He's giving with expectation of reciprocity. And to me, it's generally not like the worst thing. At least they are, attempting to give. But as one grows and learns, I would state that often they will find that freely give and freely receive is a sort of more harmonic way of being. And it allows, like I said, the freely giving and freely receiving allows the other person to be a part of the equation and to express their love and gratitude to you. And why would you want to rob them of that by demanding that they reciprocate in a certain fashion? So there you go. This is sort of the idea. There is no easy way to determine what type of person you're dealing with in terms of what are their intentions of freely give and freely receive. So there's a lot of this sort of dynamic. You're going to have to feel it out and maybe drop a few sentences on them like, hey, just honestly, just this is freely given. It gives me great gratitude to just even be in a position to help. I gain so much just from this giving, so I don't want anything back from you. Thank you so much. I want you to just take this and be happy. And if they still insist on giving me something back, I will receive it. I will be thankful, grateful that they are grateful to do anything, to show any kind of return. It's amazing. This is the idea of service to others, is that, you lift someone up and they can lift you up in return. Wonderful back and forth, and not just one party leeching off the other. So, like I said, incarnation is about other selves, and this predisposition of you to become physically ill is so that you can be geared towards other selves a little bit more. You have some more of this interplay between you and them. So I have a small quote here, which I would like to read in that regard. So they state here in session 50.5, no matter what the lessons programmed, they have to do with other selves, not with events. They have to do with giving, not receiving, for the lessons of love are of this nature, both for positive and negative. Those negatively harvestable will be found at this time endeavoring to share their love of self. End of quote. So this is where I was saying I was going to contradict myself later, but I read this with sort of a little addendum in my head, right? So they say, no matter what your lessons, they have to do with other selves, not with events, which is actually an important point. Please note, we are always obsessed with events of future dates of when is this going to happen, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, it's more about the people in your life that you're interacting with daily. This is what your life's about. Anyways, they state here, the lessons have to do with giving, not receiving. So this is my opinion on the way that they stated that, in that there is a lot of people maybe that think that service to others and service to self kind of doesn't matter what you're, what path you're on, is that I need to sort of receive knowledge and receive wisdom and receive light in a certain way that I can then ascend, or I need to, accumulate certain things and knowledge, and right. So I think this is kind of what they're getting at. Like they say, it has to do with giving, not receiving. But in other quotes from, not necessarily Ra, but from Quo, from the other LL research material, conscious channeling, they do often state that giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. But I suppose why they would state they do not have to do with giving, or they have to do with giving and not receiving, is just because the giving aspect is maybe more important than the, say, receiving. Or I suppose, let me put this another way, is that we have spiritually evolved into these third density entities that we are now, and so a lot of the first and second density has to do with self, so it has a lot to do with the receiving and the self sort of receiving biases and distortions and free will, which allows itself to evolve into a third density being. So I suppose what I'm getting at is that the receiving comes somewhat naturally, it comes somewhat instinctually, and then the giving maybe not so much, because we think, if you're just literally like an animal, right? Like an animal with animal instincts, you're going to be thinking, well, why would I share this meat with others? Like, wouldn't I just keep it for myself? Right? This is about me. Okay. So that's like the lower instinct. So why would you want to elevate those instincts and those thoughts to higher perceptions, ones which have to do with the heart, which have to do with freely giving and freely receiving. Okay, and then because I was speaking of sickness, being that, this kind of came into my head recently because I've been dealing with a bit of sickness in odd ways, bodily distortions. Like I state to you guys often that, catalyst given to the mind, which is maybe not received or digested properly or in a timely fashion, may be offered to the body. So I've been dealing with sort of a number of things on my face lately. I must be having some indigo blockages or maybe some throat chakra blockages, most likely indigo third eye blockages, because I've had, like a blocked tear duct now, and then I had like a cavity issue, and then shortly after, yesterday, I got scratched in the face by my lady's cat. Catalyst. Oh, the quick and cruel catalyst. So, it was just really like a lot of issues going on in my head which are bringing up these quotes and ideas, and yeah, so I guess maybe I got to take my own advice here and learn to receive love. And I have somewhat been doing that, right? Like, I know this sounds silly, but even, forcing myself to go to the dentist or to the optometrist and the specialist for the eye thing, I am being put in a position where I am sort of forced to receive love from these people, right? Like, you probably were thinking more personally about, a person in your life, but this goes down to even just you receiving love for your body, right? It's sort of like, hey, maybe you've been trying to serve other people at the expense of yourself. You can only pour from, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I don't know, maybe my cup was a little bit empty. Maybe I have to do some more meditating and fill that bad boy up so I can better freely give of myself. Okay, so I got a little off track there. So what I was getting at is that when you have a physical distortion in your body, what I wanted to note is that you'll only be given as much as you can bear, which is good news because you are capable of handling anything within your life. Let's say is kind of how I regard this. Okay, so this is from session 22.6, and Ross states, the shortening of the lifespan is a distortion of the law of one, which suggests that an entity not receive more experience in more intensity than it may bear. This is only in effect upon an individual level and does not hold sway over planetary social complexes. End of quote. So in my opinion here, what they're stating is that the shortening of the lifespan, in other words, like, you dying a little earlier, or, well, they did state that we used to live like almost hundreds of years in our planet now, blah, 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 blah. We only live like maybe max 100, okay? But anyways, say, your standard is like 100, and then the shortening of the lifespan, like down to like 50 or 40 or whatever age that you may move along at, okay? So the shortening of the lifespan is, like, generally, you're going to be taken out of this third density equation if you feel that you're receiving more experience in more intensity than you may bear. So that may sound like a scary thing, right? But the way I see it is in a positive light. I like to think that, hey, if I am not dead and I am here, then anything within my purview, I am capable of handling. I am capable of seeing with a centered and clear mind and attempting to serve and freely give and freely receive in whatever manner that holds sway. But I need not necessarily burden myself with the worry that, this catalyst is too much for me to bear, because if it was, I wouldn't be here. So, they also state that sometimes you're more, I don't like saying it like that, but your more advanced soul or from a higher density or whatever, your soul may incarnate in third density with very lofty goals of lessons of love. Like, oh, we're going to fit a whole bunch of lessons into this incarnation, and they're going to be really intense, and I'm going to learn a whole bunch. And then you come into life, and, you go behind the veil of forgetting, and you and your higher self, your higher self's dishing out these lessons for you with your free will, and you are like, whoa, this is too much to handle. So that does happen sometimes. I imagine the lessons can be amended and tweaked a little bit so that you may bear them in a more less intense manner. But point being is that you can take it, my friends. Anything that is happening to you today, I'm sure there's a lot of possible terrible things going on in some of your lives, but I just would like you to know that you are capable, my friend. You can do it. I love you. I believe in you, and I think that you are capable of accepting this. So if I may sum up what we kind of just talked about, my friends, you need to drop the spiritual ego and the arrogance when you are in pain and hurting and are in some sort of distortion, and you need to reach out to others. You need to not suffer alone in pain. That is a lot of what people are arrogant enough to do, because they think, oh, how dare I how dare I put my burdens on other people? They don't want to listen to me whine and complain, right? Oh man, I'm just like, when other people sometimes do that to me. I feel like, they're sort of like using me, and I don't want to do that to other people. So, I'm just going to suffer in silence. And that is a lesson that a lot of us will learn, I guess, almost the hard way. You're going to, suffer alone for a long time, and eventually someone's going to reach out to you and be like, man, what the hell are you doing? Like, just pick yourself up. Let's go. I love you. Like, let me take care of you. I want to help you. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you need help? Do you need thoughts? Do you need love? Do you need money? What can I do for you? I want to help you. Like, what else is this life about if we're not here helping each other? And I don't know that you need help if you don't tell me and you don't share. And, if we're friends, I expect that you would share your vulnerable sides with me. And, maybe then, now I'm thinking about this, that it goes both ways too. Okay. Sometimes you need to be the one that reaches out to other people asking for that help so that they may feel comfortable doing it to you when they're in a similar position. So, don't feel like a burden. Drop the shame. Realize that we're all human. We all suffer. We all generally want to help each other. And so, if you're attempting to freely give in your daily life, then if you are becoming sick or whatever, not even, right? Just try to embody the ideas of freely receiving as well. So freely give, freely receive. That is a big vibrational word complex that has stuck with me for a long time. I even have a bit of a gematria thing with freely give, freely receive, and I don't really know how to explain it other than I think that freely give, freely receive in simple gematria equals the number 252, and if I am correct, Christ consciousness also equals 252. And unconditional love, Christ consciousness, is of the green ray of the heart chakra. Isn't that interesting how you have the same number equal something of generally the same energy? Hey, isn't that exciting? Just like the one infinite creator equals 233 and intelligent infinity equals 233, which Ra explains are somewhat of the descriptors of the same thing. So you see maybe some synchronicity here and there. I don't like to do those schizo rants too much with people because some people can get too into them. It's more, I just think, fun and interesting to see a synchronicity like that and share it. So freely give, freely receive. These are the lessons that I would like to leave with you today. Two sides of the same coin. You're a lovely giver, well, be a lovely receiver. Or, maybe this is the opposite podcast. You're a lovely receiver and you could practice, being a better giver. Whatever it is, you now understand they are two sides of the same coin. There is no difference. It is just ways of loving. So my friends, I think that is good for today. If you enjoyed this podcast, give it a like. It helps other people see the podcast. It lets me know that you appreciate the hard work that I put into this weekly to look up quotes and thoughts and ideas to share that I feel that are going to be helpful in your life. Also, if you find value in what I do, I would really enjoy if you joined my Patreon, shoot me a one-time PayPal, interact, email, money transfer, whatever you want, right? This is about freely giving and freely receiving. I seek to give all of this for free. I really don't expect anything in return, but if you find value in what I do, I wouldn't want to put this behind a paywall, and I would gratefully receive whatever it is that you're willing to share in gratitude with me. I wouldn't want you to do it if you didn't have it to sort of freely give anyways. So, if you're not in abundance, no worries. I don't really care. I would rather instead have you just take this information and do with it as you will. And I don't expect anything from anybody about any of this. But still need to open myself up to that lesson of freely receiving. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I work and I can work less overtime, and I can have more time to do things like this and find amazing art and quotes and really in-depth podcast discussions. If you guys do join my Patreon, it gives me more time. Time is money, being honest with you. So thank you guys for listening. I love you so much. I hope you have a good rest of the week. And sorry I was a little late on the podcast. Like I said, I needed a little time to myself yesterday with my cat list, with my being striked in the face by my furry second density friend, and who kind of put me in a bit of a bad day, right? So you having a bad day, that's all right. You can sort of take the day off. We don't always need to be so concerned with all the growth and being perfect at all times. I took yesterday off to sort of sit in my catalyst and pout and balance myself, and come back today feeling, invigorated and wanting to share this type of information with you. So thank you guys. I love you. Take care.